7 terrifying archaeological discoveries caught on camera that shocked the entire world. Welcome back to the Ancient History channel. Dear friends, have you ever been watching an archaeology video and suddenly felt a chill run down your spine? What seemed like just a simple dig for pottery shards sometimes turns into the unearthing of dark, almost unbelievable secrets. There are moments when even the on-site cameras seem to freeze, because what's uncovered isn't just ancient ruins, but horrifying evidence from history, sometimes bordering on the supernatural. From hidden catacombs filled with thousands of skeletons, to a stone statue that appears to bleed at night, or a coffin that no one has dared to open for centuries. All of it has been documented truthfully, without any exaggeration or editing tricks. And what truly haunts viewers isn't just the visuals, but the stories buried beneath layers of earth and stone. Stories that even modern science has yet to fully explain. If you're someone who loves exploring the unknown and you're brave enough, join me as we uncover the 7 creepiest archaeological discoveries ever caught on camera. Shocking truths that stunned the world and might just keep you up tonight. The 2,000-year-old brocade cloth and the cosmic prophecy that stunned experts. Have you ever thought that a tiny piece of fabric buried deep underground could leave the entire world in awe? Yes, not gold, not jade, but a small piece of cloth. Yet it holds a prophecy connected to the universe and the fate of a nation. Just hearing that is enough to send chills down your spine, right? This story begins in the mid-1990s, specifically in 1995. On a mildly sunny morning, a Chinese archaeological team set out for the remote region of Nia in Xinjiang. This area once served as a cultural crossroads between East and West along the legendary Silk Road. But to most people, it was nothing more than an arid wasteland, with little hope of uncovering anything remarkable. And yet, destiny often favors the most unexpected places. When the first shovel struck the dusty soil of the desert, the team had no idea they were about to unearth an untold chapter of history. After days of grueling work, they discovered an ancient tomb, not a royal one, and with no treasure buried within, but it contained a relic so astonishing it took everyone's breath away. As I mentioned earlier, it was a tiny piece of brocade, measuring just about 7.3 inches long and 4.9 inches wide. You might be thinking, it's just a piece of fabric, what's the big deal? But hold that thought. The first thing that stunned the experts was the fact that the cloth had remained almost perfectly preserved after more than 2,000 years underground. Despite the dry desert climate, fluctuating humidity, and harsh conditions that should have decayed it long ago. And yet, the stitching remained intact. The silk borders were meticulously sewn, elegantly rounded, and even included a decorative ribbon. The closer they looked, the stranger it became. The brocade was woven from 5 ultra-thin layers stacked atop each other, an extraordinary level of craftsmanship far beyond what historians thought possible for ancient textile technology. But that wasn't the most shocking part. What truly left archaeologists speechless was what lay at the center of the fabric. 8 ancient Chinese characters, hand-embroidered with surgical precision. When translated, the phrase read, "5 stars rise in the east, bringing prosperity to China." At first glance, it might sound like a simple proverb, but it carried a weight that startled both archaeologists and astrologers alike. Why? Because in Eastern astrology, the phrase 5 stars isn't merely symbolic. It refers to the 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, which also correspond to the 5 visible planets: Venus, Jupiter, Mercury, Mars, and Saturn. When these 5 planets align in the eastern sky, forming a near-perfect line, it is considered an extremely rare cosmic event, believed to be a harbinger of good fortune and national prosperity. Can you believe it? Thousands of years ago, their ancestors embroidered this prophecy, capturing a celestial event stitch by stitch. Modern science confirmed that the fabric indeed dates back to the Han Dynasty, over 2,000 years ago. The message embroidered on it wasn't just a coincidence, it was a coded record of the cosmos, hidden in a tiny piece of brocade, waiting centuries to be discovered. Even more fascinating, the 5 stars mentioned in the prophecy are now featured on the modern Chinese national flag. So the question remains, was this all just a coincidence? Or was it a vision that transcended time? Maybe only history can answer that. But as you can see, once again, we are reminded that sometimes the smallest things can completely change how we see the past. And who knows, buried deep beneath the earth, there may still be countless secrets waiting to be uncovered beyond anything we can imagine. 200 skeletons beneath Singapore reveal the bloody secret behind Alexandra Hospital. Can you believe that? Right in the heart of a modern country like Singapore, behind what seems like just another ordinary hospital, lies a terrifying wartime secret. This isn't a legend or a vague rumor. It's a piece of real, slowly emerging history that has archaeologists holding their breath. We're talking about the area behind Alexandra Hospital, a location that once served as a critical frontline medical facility for the British military during World War II. But what few people know is that this very place, once meant to save lives, became the scene of a bloody massacre that claimed the lives of around 200 people over just 2 tragic days. February 14th and 15th, 1942. The story begins with the Japanese invasion of Singapore, then still a British colony in the Malaya region. Alexandra Hospital, known at the time as the British Military Hospital, was transformed into an unofficial battleground. Japanese troops stormed the hospital grounds, where wounded soldiers, nurses, doctors, and civilians had sought refuge. No one was spared. It's believed that over 200 lives were lost behind the hospital. No grave markers, no names, just silent pain buried deep beneath the soil. After Singapore gained self-governance and the British withdrew in 1971, Alexandra Hospital became a civilian facility under government ownership. Over time, the story of the massacre faded into memory, until recently, when plans to expand the hospital brought the area back into the spotlight. Why, you ask? Because according to multiple sources, the land behind the hospital may actually be a mass grave, where the unfortunate victims were quietly buried more than 70 years ago. Naturally, Singaporean authorities, specifically the National Heritage Board, NHB, did not turn a blind eye. In December 2020, a professional archaeological team was deployed to survey the area using ground-penetrating radar, GPR, a modern technology that detects anomalies beneath the surface, such as burial pits, old foundations, or trenches. The initial results weren't conclusive, but they suggested that what lies beneath the surface is unlikely to be natural. Numerous irregularities were detected, and the archaeological team is now carefully analyzing the data. Dr. John Miksich, a renowned archaeologist from the National University of Singapore, believes this discovery could reveal more about the relationship between the British military and local communities during the colonial era. However, he cautiously emphasized that while there's a strong possibility, it's still too early to confirm whether these findings are directly linked to the wartime massacre. Still, whatever the final results may be, one thing is clear: history never truly sleeps. The Tomb of 80 Skeletons in Peru and the rebirth mystery of the ancient Ixma people. Have you ever wondered how ancient civilizations viewed death? To modern people, death may represent separation, a final end. But to a culture that existed thousands of years ago in South America, death was seen as the very first step on a new journey. Perhaps the clearest evidence of this belief lies at the ruins of Pachacamac, not far from Lima, the capital of Peru. A recent archaeological excavation at this site has sent ripples through the global research community. This wasn't a chance discovery. It was the result of long-term study by a team of archaeologists from the Free University of Brussels, Belgium. What they uncovered was a mass tomb, believed to be the largest ever found in the area, containing approximately 80 human remains, all remarkably well preserved. But what left experts truly stunned wasn't just the number. It was how these bodies were buried. Each skeleton was carefully wrapped in layers of cloth, a clear sign that this was no hurried burial site, but a sacred ritual space steeped in deep spiritual meaning. Among them, 2 of the most striking skeletons were found in a fetal position, heads tucked into chests, arms and legs curled tightly inward. At first glance, you might think this was a coincidence, but no, it was a distinct burial style of the Ixma people, a civilization that once flourished in this region thousands of years ago. To the Ixma, death was not the end. The fetal position symbolized rebirth, as if the deceased were preparing to re-enter the world in a new form. This profound perspective on death challenges our modern assumptions and invites us to reconsider what we think we know about the end of life. Strangely, no written records were found in the tomb. And yet, through the artifacts left behind, archaeologists have managed to pull back the veil just a bit, on the spiritual world of the Ixma. Several symbolic objects were uncovered: clay masks and even a carved wooden false head, believed to be ritual tools to help souls pass through the Heaven's Gate and reach the afterlife. What's more, most of the remains belong to pilgrims who likely died from illness during their journey to Pachacamac, which was once one of the most important religious centers of the Ixma civilization. However, some of the skeletons were children, and this is the part that tugs at the heart. Based on the burial structure and context, archaeologists believe these children may have been sacrificed, an offering to the gods in hopes of securing divine protection and well-being for the community. It's a heartbreaking truth, but one that reflects the deep religious devotion and unwavering reverence the Ixma had for their deities and the spiritual world. As you can see, even without a single written word, the Ixma left behind a story, told through images, rituals, and spirit. They believed that life didn't end in this world, it simply continued in another. To say that Pachacamac is more than an archaeological site, that it's a gateway between two worlds, where people once connected with the gods through pure devotion, is not an exaggeration. The giant skeletons found in a Nevada cave, the mysterious legacy of the Cte-Ca. Giants. Sounds like something out of myths, movies, or fairy tales, right? But what if I told you that deep in the desolate deserts of Nevada, evidence was found of giant human skeletons over 8 feet tall, with bright red hair buried inside a cave? This story begins in a seemingly unremarkable place called Lovelock Cave, tucked deep within the mountains of Nevada's arid desert. Isolated and forgotten, the area didn't attract much attention until the early 1900s, when a group of guano miners accidentally unearthed strange human remains. According to early reports and eyewitness accounts, these skeletons measured over 8 feet tall, far exceeding the height of the local Paiute people who had lived in the area. Not only were they unusually tall, but their hair was red, a striking feature especially rare among ancient populations in the Americas. But here's the thing, this wasn't the first time anyone had heard of them. For generations, the Paiute, a Native American tribe living around the Humboldt Sink area, had passed down oral legends about a race of giants they called the Cte-Ca, meaning tule eaters, referring to a type of reed plant common in the region. According to the legends, the Cte-Ca were not only giants but also ferocious and violent. They were said to have kidnapped and killed local tribespeople, set traps, and waged war against neighboring communities. The threat was so severe that, as the story goes, the tribes joined forces to wipe them out by driving them into Lovelock Cave and setting it on fire. Sounds like a myth, right? But inside Lovelock Cave, evidence of ancient fires has actually been found. Charred layers of ash, soot stains on the ceilings and walls, adding an eerie level of credibility to the old legend. Over the years, archaeologists have excavated more than 10,000 artifacts from the cave. Weapons, pottery, woven baskets, and even well-preserved strands of red hair. Objects that suggest a real community once lived there. And this community was different. So who were the Cte-Ca? Where did they come from? Were they a separate branch of human evolution? Or just an exaggerated tale passed down through time? Some scientists argue that the so-called giants may have simply been very tall individuals, possibly the result of genetic disorders. But the native community strongly disagrees. They firmly believe the legends of their ancestors are true. In fact, some theories go even further, linking the Cte-Ca to the biblical Nephilim, or even to an ancient extraterrestrial civilization that once visited Earth. To this day, no definitive evidence has confirmed the true identity of the beings found in Lovelock Cave, but the discoveries inside it have raised serious questions. Is the history we know missing entire chapters? If giants really did once walk the land, right in the heart of America, then this is no longer just folklore. It's a historical mystery waiting to be solved. So what about you? Do you think the Cte-Ca were merely the stuff of legend, or did they truly exist? As for me, I still believe that giants might very well have walked this earth. We just haven't seen them with our own eyes yet. The skeleton of a mother, embracing her child for 6,000 years, inside an ancient grave. An embrace, gentle, peaceful, lasting 6,000 years. Do you think such a thing is even possible? At first I didn't believe it either. But you know what? A wordless, soundless embrace, one so powerful it left archaeologists speechless upon discovery, truly happened in the Nieuwegein municipality, located in the province of Utrecht, the Netherlands. It all began during a routine archaeological excavation in the area. Researchers uncovered an ancient grave dating back to the Neolithic period, around 6,000 years ago, a time when humans still lived primarily by hunting and gathering. At first glance, the grave looked ordinary. Inside was the skeleton of an adult, buried in the soil like many others from that era. But something seemed off. The archaeologists noticed that the woman's right arm wasn't laid flat in the usual burial position. Instead, it was curved gently, as if she were holding something incredibly precious. Trusting their instincts, the team expanded the excavation around her arm, and slowly, tiny bone fragments began to emerge, nestled closely against the woman's body. That's when a specialized research group from RAAP, based in Leiden, joined the investigation. They carefully collected the delicate remains, among them a tiny jawbone and several unerupted baby teeth. After detailed analysis, the conclusion was staggering. The bones belonged to an infant only around 2 months old at the time of death. Suddenly, everything made sense. The curved position of the woman's arm was no longer a mystery. It was the trace of a final embrace. The embrace of a mother, holding her infant child as both passed from this world together. What seemed like a simple archaeological find turned out to carry a meaning far deeper than anyone expected. This wasn't just the discovery of 2 skeletons, it was a frozen moment in time, a deeply emotional scene, preserved beneath the earth for over 6 millennia. Scientists are now conducting DNA tests on both skeletons to confirm whether they were biologically mother and child. But regardless of the outcome, one thing is clear. That image of a mother embracing her baby tells a story more powerful than words ever could. It not only offers scientists a rare glimpse into burial rituals of ancient communities, but also opens a window into their family bonds, their views on life and death, and their capacity for human connection. A 2,300-year-old Warring States sword reveals the lost secrets of ancient Chinese craftsmanship. Recently, deep underground in an ancient tomb in Xinyang City, Henan Province, China, archaeologists unearthed an artifact that sent chills of awe through experts and history enthusiasts alike. A sword over 2,300 years old, believed to date back to the Warring States period, one of the most turbulent yet brilliant eras in ancient Chinese history. The Warring States period, from 475 to 221 BCE, was a time when 7 powerful states, known as the 7 warlords, fought fiercely for supremacy. The land was soaked in blood and uncertainty. Yet, amidst this chaos, the art of weapon forging reached its peak, producing swords that were not just tools of war, but also masterpieces embodying cultural essence, technical skill, and the spirit of the era. And this newly discovered sword is no ordinary blade. The moment it was drawn from its sheath, experts carefully wore gloves to avoid damaging its surface. The blade flashed with a sharp silver light, cold and razor-sharp, as if it had been forged just days ago. There was no rust, no chips, and astonishingly, the sword retained its glossy shine after lying buried for over 2 millennia. Witnesses at the site held their breath, not merely beholding an antique, but a living piece of history awakening after 2,300 years of slumber. So, what has allowed this sword to withstand the test of time so remarkably? The answer lies in its very composition. According to ancient texts and modern testing results, the sword was crafted from a special copper alloy consisting of copper, tin, and lead, 3 metals blended in an almost perfect ratio. This formula created a blade that was strong, flexible, and highly resistant to oxidation. The sword's sheath was also designed to be airtight, providing exceptional protection to the blade within. But this sword's craftsmanship doesn't end there. It is adorned with intricate patterns and engravings, possibly symbols of its owner, or even a curse or oath of loyalty. Who really knows? Every scratch, every line might be the memory of a battle, the breath of a warrior who lived and died fighting with this blade on the battlefield. After undergoing careful examination and preservation, the sword will be displayed at a national museum in China. It will stand not only as a museum piece, but also as a living witness, telling future generations the story of a heroic, volatile era, where loyalty, the dream of unification, and the brutal reality of war were forged into every solid layer of metal. The 5,900-year-old muscular woman inside a shell tomb on the Caribbean coast. Have you ever imagined that, along the vast white sandy shores of the Caribbean, where people usually think it's just sunshine, breeze, and palm trees, there lies a secret from nearly 6,000 years ago? If not, then let me take you back in time. On January 4th, 2019, an international team of archaeologists uncovered a remarkably special ancient tomb at Monkey Point, a small coastal village in Nicaragua, a relatively poor Central American country with layers of history as deep as the soil beneath it. What stunned the scientific community wasn't just the tomb's age, about 5,900 years old, but the main figure buried inside, a woman with muscular arms like an athlete. It sounds unbelievable, but this story is completely true. Professor Mirjana Roxandic, an anthropologist from the University of Winnipeg, Canada, who led the research, said this discovery is one of the most important clues about pre-Columbian burial customs in Lower Central America. What's remarkable is that, despite being buried nearly 6 millennia underground in a hot, humid tropical climate, conditions that usually cause bones to crumble and disintegrate to decay, the skeleton was extremely well preserved. So, what was the secret? Archaeologists discovered that ancient people used a very natural yet effective preservation method. They covered the body with shells, mollusk shells, and a special type of soil. This reduced the soil's acidity and kept the skeleton nearly intact, a clever, subtle technique that truly speaks to the intelligence of our ancestors. The woman in the tomb is estimated to have died between the ages of 25 and 40, standing about 4 feet 11 inches tall, but she was far from fragile. Her arms were muscular and strong, as if she had rowed a boat against the wind for hundreds of nautical miles. Archaeologists believe she was no ordinary woman, likely a skilled rower belonging to a community that depended on the sea, much like the people of Monkey Point today. Her burial posture was also unusual. She lay on her back, arms stretched straight out to her sides, knees slightly bent, in an oval-shaped pit about 7.5 feet deep. The grave was covered with a thick layer of soil and mollusk shells, likely not just for protection, but as a sacred ritual marking the importance of the deceased, or perhaps as a ceremony honoring high-ranking members of the community. Can you start to picture this woman's life? A small but tough woman who every day battled strong waves and fierce winds, rowing out to sea to find food, helping her fishing village survive the vast ocean. Maybe she was a guide, closely connected to the rhythm of her community's life, or maybe she was a silent heroine of prehistoric times whose story we may never fully know. But whoever she was, this discovery not only opens a new chapter in Central American archaeology, but also challenges how we view women's roles in ancient societies. You see, archaeology is not just about dry bones or old ceramic jars, but sometimes it is about secrets that make history shiver. Each discovery in today's video opens a door to a mysterious past where the camera accidentally recorded the most terrifying moments on the planet. How do you find today's video? Which discovery impressed you the most? Don't forget to leave a comment sharing your feelings below the video, and remember to follow the channel by clicking the subscribe button so you don't miss the next strange journeys of discovery. QFNBBAA. Now goodbye and see you again.